Luminosity heading into game number 2. I'm sure they want the same dual lane. We'll see if the bans change for Randozos in the picks and bans. Randozos will get number 1, so they'll have option for the Terra if Luminosity doesn't ban it out.
I expect it to be either gone or picked by them. I don't think anything else is going to happen. They might even ban away the Jing, but then they run the risk of having that soul open as well. They spent their bans on targeting out 2 players, the Ratatoskr for Mast, and I believe it was the Soul for BaRRaCCuDDa. So if you're going to switch that to a Jing or a Terra ban, which one are you going to give up?
Well, the Soul ban is certainly going to stay. Luminosity will go meta and just ban out the Nemesis. Randozos have another option, like we said. Thinking about this one, is it really about game number 1?
I think, you know, with Terra available, if you can play it yourself, I think it's fine to just ban away the Ratatoskr. Instead, they're going to ban away the Fafnir, which means those are the 2 premier supports left. And LG, they're just going to take away the second one. Don't even want to deal with that.
Yeah, they don't want to see what Wobbn can do with it. Randozos now have an option. They'll go with the Ratatoskr. So giving Mirage that high mobility, heavy damage.
I think that works for him. I think it will work very similar to a Nemesis or a Susano, where he can go very aggressive, looking to get kills under tower.
Agreed.
LG wasting no time though. They really like the Jing pick, and they're also going to go back with the the global mobility of Janus, just that double global presence. Jing not as strong, but still there with the passive.
And Vulcan will be the response out of Randozos. You were talking a lot about moswal's Vulcan. It's looked very strong. And you know what? Wubbn's Guan Yu. We don't really talk about Wubbn as like a historical player all that much. But when I think Wubbn, when it comes down to it, it's always Sobek or Guan. These are the 2 characters that Wubbn plays a lot, and I'm very excited about this one.
Susano going to be picked up for Mass, so a whole lot of movement around the map. LG looking for a very similar style, I think. Randozos have a great team fight so far. A really solid core if that Guan Yu is going to Wubbn and not over to Whalrus in the soul lane. Ratatoskr, so much just self-sustain, able to set up a lot of presence. The global rotations across the map as well. Vulcan and Rat actually combine very well. We see a lot of Ratatoskers utilizing the ult for setup potential. The knock-up, obviously, unless you pre-CC it, you can't beads once you're in the air. The Vulcan ult's going to be guaranteed on top of that.
Nice little combo there. Randozos going to ban out the Amaterasu. SCary completely. It was just a little bit too much, so none of that nonsense. And Bacchus, you're going to take the fat man away from JeffHindla, so he'll be playing on the Sobek today.
Like that, Sobek, like he was... I mean, he was the only player who was really running Bacchus, but JeffHindla is still Sobek as well. This god came out in 2012. Jeff started playing Smite in like 2001, right? Like before it was even conceived.
So Wukong will be the solo laner most likely, and Ram is the selection.
I love Ram because what we're finally seeing Ram picked up for counter options more than anything. He's very heavily drafted in the second phase of the draft, and what it's primarily for is against players or team comps that run very high mobility, because what they like to do is do all their damage in the fights and then just sneak away, go back to the fountain, and then they can sometimes come back in and clean up. You see that with Janus's, Susano's very strong at that. Even Jing have a lot of that. And Ram, with those long-range snipes, it's going to be a lot onto Wowy. If a team fight goes well for Randozos, that he cleans up those stragglers.
He's going to be looking for Janus making his way through the portals and Susano running all the way around. Mirage on the Ratatoskr, and it will be Whalrus on the Sun Wukong, so Wubbn again on that Guan Yu. Very adept at this character. Wubbn is, I feel like Wubbn hasn't really made an identity for himself just yet here in the SPL. When we watch the Randozos, we know that Whalrus is sort of the leader in-game and out-of-game. Mirage and moswal, we've talked about a lot. And Wowy, the newest acquisition. But Wubbn hasn't really dug himself a hole just yet, I feel like, in the SPL here.
He likes to go aggressive. He's one of the aggressive supports. You look at the likes of, I want to say, who's probably the most aggressive support? Trixtank, right? He's not at that level, but he's that style where he likes to do a lot of damage. He likes these gods, like the Warriors, looking at Guan Yu, as well as Fafnir, who could put out a fair amount of teamfight damage as well.
No invades coming out. See a little bit of vision coming out from Luminosity right there on the mid lane entrances, just to see if Randozos decide to cross over. But in general, nothing too out of the ordinary. You've got the combination of the SCary and Mask. I don't want to invade Vamana versus Susano anytime soon. And honestly, Sun Wukong and the Ratatoskr also relatively safe. So both teams going to make it to lane with no real issues.
Tale of two junglers here in this match, I think. Mirage not really being able to play into his typical style in game one. Obviously likes to be very aggressive. I've talked a whole lot about him taking more damage from towers than players at this point. He is someone who just wants to dive you. He wants to fight all the time. LG not giving him a chance though, setting up their side lanes to have this powerhouse and solid invades. But now he's on Ratatoskr, so he's got the global presence himself. It's going to be on to him, I think, if Randozos want to win this game.
So in game number one, Randozos kind of won the picks and ban phase. You can see the dual lane getting aggressive here. BaRRaCCuDDa hitting a couple shots.
I think they won the picks and ban phase when you look at team fights only. LG, they had the better picks and ban phase for, wow, better picks and bans phase for the early game, for setting up those side lanes, for having these aggressions and not relying on team fights, relying on objective play after they can get individuals just multiple levels ahead.
How do you feel about the situation here in game number two? Because when it comes down to Randozos' individual picks, I think their individuals are a little bit more comfortable on these selections. Whalrus with the Sun Wukong, moswal with the Vulcan, and Wubbn on the Guan Yu. Just a little bit more clown-esque.
Oh, wow. Speaking of clown-esque, a lot of clowning around in the jungle. Mirage getting very low. Mast gonna find moswal, who's pushed up on the wrong side of the map right now. Xeno very low. Same with moswal, but he's a Vulcan. How's he getting out of this one?
He's gonna drop the turret, purify out of the portal, and a nice backfire, but it's just not enough. Mask finds the kill. Mask finds the kill. 2 times is twice as good. Luminosity starting the game with a hot double kill out of the mid lane. A credit to the jungler.
Randozos didn't really have a lot of pressure for that invade. It's okay to do it sometimes if you're able to bait out some health potions from the other team or poke them out to half-life or, you know, have them go to the opposite side of the map while they're invading your backs.
Luminosity made that play in game one, and I noted that, hey, they just sort of did it raw. There was no pressure. Luminosity did it game one, and they didn't get punished for it. Randozos said, hey, why don't we do the same thing? Luminosity punished them. That's the difference. I mean, you've got to respond to that.
It was close, but the issue is you're invading a Susano and a Janus.
Exactly.
And they're forcing the fight. This is not a fight that Mast or Mirage and moswal had orchestrated. They were just looking for the invade and to back off. If they could find someone, great. But they're up against 2 really high mobility gods in the early game, and they're not able to chase them down. They're not able to lock them down. And then you have a Vulcan deep into the opponent's jungle at level 4. Like, nothing good is going to come from that unless you had previously poked out Xeno or Mast.
Like I said, it was the exact same play that Luminosity played in game one, but Xeno was on Janus. I think Janus is a little bit more mobile than a Vulcan. What do you say?
It's close, man. It's pretty close. I don't know.
So
Portal someone through the world. Jeff could have throwback Wubbn as well. And the pressure from these lanes is great. As moswal going to fall in the mid there. You can see Xeno burning his ult. Same with Mast there. Probably just a full commit onto someone who couldn't really stop it.
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you, Mirage walks into the groove trying to get aggressive on Mask. That's a frustration play right there. Mask with 4 kills to his name in 3.5.
Like, he just, I don't know, Mirage doesn't have the burst to do that,
Nah,
and he's
he
by
thought he
himself.
did. Mirage, honestly, that's just a frustration play. Mirage, they got smoked in the mid. He watches his mid laner get killed again. He goes, hey, I might be able to just get him down real quick.
Did he burn his purification there, or was it already? Because if it was already burnt, that was the most misguided thing he could have done.
30 seconds. So he burned it probably when moswal died in that situation. Probably got a double stun or something like that onto Mirage. But just frustration very early out of the Randozos jungler.
This is surprising because the Randozos that I watched for the first 2 weeks didn't look like that. They've only been able to find 1 win, but their games, even against top teams, have been close. Their early game specifically is phenomenal. They have great individual players that know how to lane, that know how to take smaller fights, but now they're just making these decisions where I feel like they're trying to force too much.
I think it's more of the story about Luminosity, Kevin. Game 1, Randozos were a little bit close, and it just got out of hand. Randozos got to still be feeling it. Luminosity looked very, very strong, comparatively speaking, to the past, and Randozos just can't deal.
That could have been close here. We're going to look at the kill that we did miss in the mid lane. This is just moswal, no purification, and just beautiful.
They just caught him.
Great play.
Yeah, just dictated from the minute they conceived the play and said, hey, look, we're going to kill Vulcan. And they said, okay.
I mean, that's just utilizing the Janus ult. And you see that a lot from teams more in late game scenarios where they'll have these cheeky like, let's cut off their escape, or let's focus on the left hand side so we can open up in a Gold Fury tip. But at level 6, you really don't see Susanos make that kind of play. I love this play style that comes out of XenoTronics, really getting full use out of through space and time. No one else does that. There's a lot of players who have this dual purpose Janus who run the more defensive style. They'll use the ults to get people out. They'll use portals to get people out. The slows are like, okay, we're going to stop their aggression and set up for my team. Xeno, though, using it for getting kills.
I think you could look at Chaos to have a similar play style, but Xeno on the more offensive side, I will certainly say so. Xeno definitely one of the more offensive mid laners. A lot of mid laners kind of just tread water here and then make the plays when they come to them. Xeno has become, and I think that's the biggest difference between his first split with Denial and his split here. Xeno is a playmaker now. On Denial, he was just sort of he was trying to make it happen. Now he's setting up the plays.
I'm going to go back to what we talked about at the start of this set, where LG are a different team without Ananser, without Stealth, without all the old players. Stealth, I think, was more of that passive guy. Stealth's not going to be making the plays like that.
Absolutely.
And that's the switch. I think that's kind of what LG has done, very similar to what Envy had done when Kiki came out. It's like everyone kind of just learned the roles. I'm just supposed to farm. Skeleton's making the plays. But on this LG, it's XenoTronics and Mask who are making the plays. They're the ones setting up. They're the ones going aggressive, trying to find kills.
I mean, Mask, we saw in game, but Mask can be the sacrificial lamb. Xeno setting up the plays, making it happen. The rest of Luminosity sort of falling into place. Mask usually the one getting traded out. Different teams have different identities. Luminosity are playing through XenoTronics now, and that's what's allowing them to be so successful. You know, they started off, like I said, I pegged them as a relatively average team, but here, they're able to just walk into the enemy jungle, take away his speed buff, no concern.
Oh, actually, a setup for a kill on the right-hand side. You could see they were looking for the blue buff, but they're actually just waiting for Whalrus to run around the corner. He's the ulti knock-up. I don't think Whalrus is going to be able to get into the cloud soon enough. It had actually already been burned. Vulcan ult from over the top, though. Mirage answers back.
ScaryD falls down, and JeffHindla in some trouble as well. Big shot at a moswal puts the hurtin' on the right-hand side. Randozos was able to finally make their mark on this game, but it's very late. Luminosity with an early 3,000 gold lead, which honestly means a ton.
That's a lot, especially at 7 minutes.
That's a huge amount at 7.
I mean, you're looking at 7 minutes, typically like a 1K lead. Okay, we got it. Maybe there's an early Gold Fury, but even when people get early Gold Furies, you're looking at like 2K because they had got just an opening kill, but LG doing so much across the map right now, and it's going to be very hard against JeffHindla, who's level 8, actually matching Randozos in most of their levels. This is going to be another experience lead for LG, where they're just going to be multiple levels ahead. They're going to have their secondary relics. They're going to have extra ranks into their abilities, extra ranks into their ultimates, and it's going to just be hard for Randozos to fight into it.
I love how Mass turned his game around from last game, and make no bones about it. Despite the last game, I think was a perfect example of how a bad slash slide doesn't dictate a bad game. I think Mass did perfectly fine despite having a number of deaths. Some of them were silly, some of them were required to set up the team. Here, he's like, all right, man, listen, last game you guys had my deaths. This time, I'm gonna get 4 real quick, and then I'm just gonna go back to doing
This is also a different god. Going back to a Naja, you are a setup god more than a playmaking god?
I don't know if I straight agree with that, but I see where you're going.
In comparison to Susano, it's not even close. Najas typically are there to set up your mid laner for the follow-up damage, but when combined with the Janus, that doesn't really work. They more to utilize the mobility of Janus and then the setup potential in smaller fights.
Wubbn gets caught out, and he's gone before he came. JeffHindla gets one, so 1 on the support. Good play over there from Luminosity. And they just played that real cute. They hid around a corner and said, hey, Jeff, hit someone.
We're seeing this so much more. We used to never see plays like this. I love this. This is just all the teams in the SPL coming in at a new level. We started seeing ward baits from Energy back. I think there were Epsilon then. Right-hand side, though, Randozos trying to make something happen. They do find a second kill onto ScaryD. There are only 2 in the game.
Man. Everything backwards from game 1, besides the fact that Luminosity still crushing it. ScaryD starts carrying the solo lane before. Now he's getting farmed. Mask got farmed. Now he's the farmer. Funny how things work out. Luminosity's still drastically ahead, and Wowy drastically losing this fight.
I mean, Wowy needs to realize after BaRRaCCuDDa connects the first 4 shots and he misses every single one, you got to back off that. It's actually BaRRa who resets. You could see that's more because BaRRa doesn't have the ward coverage right now. The only ward he has is near the mid camps and one in the the mid lane. There was no vision on moswal, so he tried to play it a little bit safer.
Because why are you going to fight? If you miss 4 shots and you're getting smoked, why are you going to fight me? Only if there's a gank coming. So BaRRaCCuDDa smells something that's not actually there. It's just the fact that Wowie's that confident in trying to turn around the fight.
I feel like BaRRaCCuDDa's adopted Zapman's playstyle this split, where before he used to be, I'm only going to farm. If there's like an off chance, I'll go for something as Mirage. Just getting some poke wars there with JeffHindla, but Zapman's style, and I think what BaRRaCCuDDa's kind of drafted into is, I'll take some risk. I'll go a little bit more aggressive, even if there's a potential for a gank to come in. I'll still play safe. It's still going to be very heavily centered around intelligent playmaking, but we're seeing a lot more of it.
Yeah, I think coming into this, split, like I said earlier, BaRRaCCuDDa realizes he's got to be more of a leader. And when it comes down to it, BaRRaCCuDDa's the type of guy, I mean, you and I know him personally, he's the type of guy that's going to lead by example. He's not exactly going to tell you, all right, you do this, you do that. BaRRaCCuDDa's just going to be a good person, a good guy, and in this case, a good player, and hope that you follow the ranks. And the rest of Luminosity certainly doing it. So BaRRaCCuDDa staying aggressive in his lane allows his team to sort of follow up suit, and that's why LG's been successful. Just good, calculated aggression.
Unfortunately there, on the right-hand side, ScaryD, despite getting killed twice, still has a significant lead over Whalrus, who's taken a spill of his own, down by about 800 gold. ScaryD able to invade that blue buff, and now Whalrus this is just the same thing as game one. Just going to be stuck under this tower most of the game. Randozos still, I think they still have a decent chance in this game. A lot of this is going to come from stemming the bleeding. They can't let Luminosity get more than this 3,500 lead they have right now. And I think if they can hold out and wait for the Guan Yu heals to become an impact into team fights, that's when they look much better.
And that's the biggest deal. We highlighted how big the 3K at 7 was. Well, it's still 3K here at 11. That's totally fine. Wubbn going to try and steal it away. Nope, can't do it. Luminosity get the Gold Fury very quickly and just scatter.
Mirage picking up a rat there. I'm not sure if he had, I don't think that was his first relic. I think once he hit level 12, he had picked it up. And Luminosity looking for those Gold Furies now and extending that lead that we just said Randozos can't let happen. 4,500 now. Randozos, though, trying to siege this up. This is not going to be easy, and they recognize it too. Instead, electing to try and look for some invades. Red buff's down, though, and they've just got to reset.
That play is very common. The enemy tier 1, the enemy going after the tier 1 after a Gold Fury is taken, because you usually expend a lot of resources, ultimates, health, etc. on the Gold Fury. Luminosity didn't spend anything. They've got 5 lit up diamonds there on the right side of your screen, so LG can fight into it. Random just quickly realize that and say, hey, this mid tower is certainly not ours.
This game going to come back down to experience. 2 levels on ScaryD, 2 levels on Mass, 2 levels on Xeno, and Jeff's got 2. Everyone's got a 2-level lead outside of BaRRaCCuDDa, who's sitting on the 1. And that's going to start to be brutal. Randozos don't even have their second relics online. LG, you can see they're fully stacked out. LG probably going to try and force a team fight, I think, before Randozos get their second relics.
Yeah, it's bad news bears when the enemy support has more experience per minute than your mid laner. ScaryD getting surrounded. Randozos trying to do what they can, but Luminosity going to respond in kind. Down comes Mirage for a knockup, but Wubbn's already gone again. Mask finds number 5. 2 players underneath the tower in Randozos' names, but here comes the Vulcan ultimate off the mark, and Luminosity still here. 4 players deep.
They could pressure this. They have all their relics right now. If they realize that Randozos only have purification, I think they'll want to siege this, and they are going to do so. Mast hanging around the side. There was Whalrus who backed. He does have TP, but LG still want this tier 1 tower on the right-hand side. This will be their first tower if they get it successfully.
Jing now going to make the rotation at least over to mid Harpies. Wow, he forced to defend his tower, and Mirage tries, but can't do much of anything against ScaryD and his friends. Tier 1 tower still being aggressed on, like you said. Down it goes. And Luminosity put 500 in their pockets.
And Whalrus knows that's not going to happen. They're not going to be able to defend it. But he actually gets very greedy here, trying to secure his blue buff as ScaryD and Mast still hanging around. Mast actually blinks past them just to secure the blue, but he might have left himself open to die there. The Janus threshold, though, going to wave Whalrus off. He knows he'll be slowed too heavily to keep up the chase.
Whalrus able to go ahead and pick up the blue buff. Mast just barely misses it, unfortunately.
Xeno's great, man. I love that. Just like doesn't have the portal on cooldown, finds the absolutely perfect threshold, both speeding up Mast as well as putting it right there in front of Whalrus. If he takes one more step, he's going to be slowed. Can't secure the kill. I like this guy more. The more I watch Xeno play, I think the better he gets. I just keep seeing more and more from him every game.
He's fallen into the role, like we said. It takes teams a minute or two, and don't get me wrong. And I want your comment on this. BaRRaCCuDDa is a star player, like a star personality, but he's always the number 2 guy on the team, right?
Yes.
Next to Andenster. He's never going to be your absolute playmaker. He's there to follow up. Xeno has become the guy on LG.
I don't know. BaRRaCCuDDa, though, has become pretty much the guy here. Jeff trying to combine a 2-man knockup as well from the Susano ult. ScariD finds moswal. Xeno looking forward. Mirage has got to take an exit back to his Phoenix. The rest of his team has been wiped out. The rotation for Whalrus is here, but Wowy getting isolated in the jungle as well.
Oh.
So much poke. The purification, the sanctuary, he's burning everything trying to stay alive. But it's the entire LG team chasing him down, opening up opportunities for this tier 1 and mid too.
100% kill participation coming out from Mr. Mask.
And 10 out of 11 for Xeno too. They've just been really utilizing this mobility. And a 16-minute Fire Giant attempt might be the earliest in the league. I know we had a 17-1 recently. The Wrath is online for Mask, and Whalrus is going to have no idea. I mean, he recognizes it now, but it's going to be too late. It's just going to be too late. Mask is going to secure it, and Whalrus is just going to, unfortunately, watch as everyone runs back to base.
The slow ScariD. Right now, ScariD's just annoyed. He's not really bothered. He's not concerned. He's just annoyed. BaRRaCCuDDa's going to show up with a bunch of damage and push the enemy in the other direction. Luminosity with what could be the earliest Fire Giant of the split.
Great play from them. Just forcing out everyone in mid. They knew they were too low to contest. They had watched either everyone die or everyone back to base. There was no one on the map. They knew Randozos weren't going to have wards at the Fire Giant. They had the Wrath. It was incredibly clean. There was nothing to risk in that scenario. And now, how are Randozos going to fight into this?
That's also one of the benefits of taking the mid tower. Once you take that mid tier 1 tower, there's just so much, there's too much room for the enemy to back off and be safe underneath their tier 2. So you're able to just open up the objectives a little bit. LG goes for Fire Giant, and there's the same Xeno play that we saw, or the same Janus play that we saw to Xeno last time around. Using the portal to find the cheeky flank. Mask again finds the kill.
I like what they did there. They were all on Gold Fury. It was going to be completely free, but instead, utilizing that Janus ultimate to pick off Wowy. They know that Gold Fury is theirs. Yep. There's no way Randozos is going to be able to do it. Instead, they'd rather use their Fire Giant to get a free kill, making it even harder for Randozos to defend their towers. The tier 2 going to be sieged. Jeff going to throw Wubbn back into the team. The dash is good as Masked focuses moswal in the backline. One hit. He finds it. BaRRaCCuDDa cleans up Wubbn as well. Mirage, I mean, he's trying to do something, but I don't know how it's going to work.
Knockup is going to be avoided. Mask still here. There it is. Number 10.
10, 0, and 5. Wow.
In 17 minutes, this man had 4 kills in 3.5. He's out of control.
I think he had like 3 deaths and no kills this time last game. So
that's the beauty of it. Just turn it around. Like I said, last game, Mask said, okay, you want to make some plays off of my deaths? I'll go really aggressive. Y'all make plays off of it. In picks and bans, Mask goes, give me Susano and shut the hell up. I'm going to do it this time around.
His rat got stolen, man. Leave him alone.
He's crushing it. He's crushing it. Luminosity as a unit are crushing it.
It's a great team. This is,
and that's the difference about LG, is the fact that they've come together.
I think they had one of the better schedules. So they actually start off against Soar. That was their first match. And Soar were just, we know what Soar looks like now. They were still kind of getting into their own, I think, when they first faced LG.
Absolutely.
LG, Soar and LG were both significantly weaker, I think, a couple weeks ago. Back into the SPL, we're seeing them play at a much higher level with some games under their belt. And so it was just a great showing, going up against other just raw mechanically skilled players and able to come up with the win. Then they face off against ALG. Then they have a split with them. Then they start facing off against kind of the weaker end opponents. A 2-0 against Envy, a 2-0 against a struggling Denial. And all that led up to, okay, now we're facing Denial, who has been on a tear, and they find the 2-0. Now they're able to close out against Randozos and just prepare for themselves for their final match against Eager.
Look how scared moswal is. He sees 2 players in lane, just hits his sanctuary, just in case. Just can't deal with it. Wubbn's going to show up, a little bit of healing. But Luminosity, there's 3 players here. JeffHindla going to join, and Mask away in the jungle. Mid Phoenix going to be started out right about now. Wubbn on the ultimate, going to stun out Janus. Janus, but Wowy already has to be chased out. ScaryD on the good side, taking out Wubbn with help from XenoTronics again. Wowy gonna go up with the ultimate. ScaryD get away to the bottom. But Mirage provides a knock-up. ScaryD still gets the kill.
Just clean. One Phoenix remains, one tower remains. LG just walk in, just kill Randozos. Randozos know that this is their last fight. They're not going to really be able to stop anything. They try and combine with moswal's ult. A little bit of fun from Whalrus and ScaryD. I think they know that this game is very far from going Randozos'
Mirage,
way.
on the other hand, is having none of it. He's like, all right, I'm going to get the stun. You're going to do something, Whalrus? Whalrus says no, and Mirage just says goodbye. Ouch.
5 deaths to his name. Xeno is here as well, and LG just going to play it safe. They probably could pile in here and win this game, but they don't have the fire minions right now pushed up into a spot they want, so instead going to back Fire Giant about to spawn. They're going to end this game clean.
I mean, this is as clean as you can get. They're just shy of a 20,000 gold lead, and they're 16 kills up. Everybody is just looking cute, feeling cute on Luminosity. There is not a care in the world for LG in this match whatsoever. Randozos, in order to win this game, they can't get a pick and win. They have to win multiple team fights, multiple objectives. Luminosity can make, let's say, 4 to 5 egregious team wiping mistakes and still wind up on
They
top
could
here.
probably all walk up mid, let Randozos wipe them twice, let Randozos get Fire Giant, and still be in a pretty positive, I mean, maybe not that much, but it's pretty, it's going to get close here. Whalrus going to try and get into this FG pit, but he's just going to get chased out by ScaryD and JeffHindla. Fire Giant going to be secured by LG, probably not even going to need to wrath it here. Mast is going to pop it though, doesn't want the stun, instead making sure no one's going to have anything cheeky from over the wall.
Mid lane, ScaryD just doing what he does.
Oh, wow,
and
that connected.
here comes the cavalry. Luminosity right down the tunnel. Going to rotate. Xeno looking for a kill. And that's going to be gone for Mirage. Wubbn gets knocked up and dropped down. Mask puts another one in his kill column. And here comes the rest of LG. That's all, folks. 2 for Luminosity.
Quick games as well. Wow, this team...
Woof.
So we have Denial, LG, and Sword now kind of sitting at the top. Enemy still struggling, but you can't count Enemy out. Like, despite all their atrocities, I think in the recent weeks, they haven't really been able to get anything rolling. But they're still Enemy. I think they need a mental reset more than anything else. Probably a couple-week break or like a week-long break just to get themselves in the game. And then there's Eager as well, but LG looking like the second-best team in the league.
Yeah, I mean, I think LG has just joined the conversation. I still think Enemy's there. I still think Eager's there. But LG have certainly really improved, both over a little bit of the interim, and then, of course, throughout the very short split that we've had so far. Just a couple of weeks, and they look very hot.
Mass, though, strong showing in both games here. Here is game 2, the Susano play. He had 10 kills, I think, heading into that last fight. I know you said I wanted to get 2 more.
He wound up with 11 by the end of the game. Absolutely. Just
and this is just, and most of these plays are going to be him and XenoTronics. You can see at this point, he's just so far ahead. He's able to take these porters from XenoTronics and then just deal with everyone in the back line. And he was so just like, all he saw was red when he saw moswal, because there's nothing a Vulcan's going to be able to do to stop a Susano jumping on him. He has to rely on either A, killing him, B, waiting for his neck match to begin, or C, something else.
I mean, just get demolished. Like, that was Mask just went out of control. They're just out of control. Love to watch dominating performances like that. And what makes it fun is that it wasn't individual based, right? It comes with the help of the team, and that's really the story about Luminosity. I think they were a bunch of individuals that were trying to find that synergy. We say that all the time about teams. Very rarely do we get to see it come to fruition as strong as this.
I think they found a diamond in the rough as well. XenoTronics. It's always a risk taking on a team or taking on a player who doesn't have that much competitive experience and trying to nurture him. But now LG and BaRRaCCuDDa have done it twice. First they did it with no, not even ScaryD. First they did it with, now 3 times I guess. First they did it with Baskin. He was Denial solo laner, a very middle of the pack team, but they saw something in him. They wanted him to replace Omega. It took him about a split. It took him actually getting farmed by Weekend in his first game, but now he's the best solo laner probably in the world. ScaryD, I think it's taken him a little bit longer, really into his own now, and XenoTronics took him about a split playing with Denial. Actually, now that's 2 players they've stolen from Denial that have worked out.
Very much so. Luminosity taking 2 over Randozos very, very quickly, looking like one of the stronger teams that we have in North America. We're coming on to our third matchup. It's going to be ALG versus SOAR. We'll see you in a few.